strategy is to blame people his advisors called, quote, the crazies, for what Donald Trump did. President Trump is a 76-year-old man. He is not an impressionable child.
Witnesses described a, quote, unhinged meeting at the White House in December 2020, where Trump loyalists Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani and Mike Flynn argued for the US military to seize voting machines in a last-ditch effort to pursue Trump's false claims of fraud.
I think that it got to the point where the screaming was completely out there. I mean, you got people walk in, it was late at night, it had been a long day, and what they were proposing I thought was nuts.
Soon after the meeting ended without resolution, Trump sent his now infamous tweet.
January 6th, be there, will be wild.
Trump's extremist supporters took that as a call to arms.
What it was going to be was an armed revolution. I mean, people died that day.
Testimony from former militia members and encrypted messages spelt out the violent intent.
Some of the online rhetoric turned openly homicidal and white nationalist, such as, why don't we just kill them, every last Democrat, down to the last man, woman, and child?
As the painstaking inquiry moves towards its conclusion, the question is whether weeks of shocking evidence will lead to a criminal prosecution of the former president. Neil Katyal is a prominent US lawyer, and he was watching the testimony in Washington. The Trump team's strategy has been to blame the crazies for January the 6th to make it look spontaneous. What did we learn today about Donald Trump's intentions?
I think today's hearing was really significant because there's kind of two buckets of people. One are the actual insurrectionists who invaded the Capitol, what you call the crazies. And the other is the White House and government officials, including Donald Trump, and what was the role they had. And I think today's hearing was really important because it outlined what happened in this meeting on December 18th at the White House, which was kind of almost a Star Wars bar scene of motley crew of, Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell and people like that, all people who should have no business advising, the door person, let alone the president of the United States. And these folks were basically cooking up a plot for a coup.
That meeting we heard about with Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani and Mike Flynn, does it change the way you look at the seriousness of what was happening there that day?
Oh, 100%. That meeting is much more significant now than I think we had understood. What the committee's testimony today did is bring it to life and actually hear from the participants in there. I think there were 8 participants and the committee has heard from 6 of them. So it's really quite something. And to learn the depth of crazy, even by Trump White House standards, is really, really chilling and scary.
White House counsel Pat Cipollone said there was no evidence to justify seizing the voting machines. Why does it matter what Trump knew about the so-called fraud in the election?
So Donald Trump's main defense, and it doesn't work against like obstruction of an official proceeding, but at least with conspiracy is, hey, I genuinely believed I won the election. And today's testimony really blows a hole in that defense because Donald Trump was told by everyone, not like the Democrats or the deep state or people like that. He was told by Bill Barr, his own attorney general. He was told by Pat Cipollone, his own top White House counsel. So he can try and make that defense. I can't imagine a jury anywhere in the United States buying it, but he can try.
How important is it that there was a plan intentionally kept secret, not just to give speeches that day, but to march on the Capitol?
Yeah, it's another step in this case that is made for Trump, and this is a third charge called seditious conspiracy, the idea that Donald Trump and others around him actually encouraged a violent attack on a United States facility.
And what about the violent intent in the encrypted messaging apps? How does that add to a potential case against Donald Trump?
Well, to the extent that they do, that the Justice Department does try and look at Donald Trump for seditious conspiracy, this is helpful because it shows, basically a premeditated plot to try and engage in violence.
We saw some of this evidence in the impeachment. What is it that we saw today that puts Trump in a more dangerous position legally?
Well, two things. One, evidence. There's so much. All these people should have come forward before, and it is inexcusable that we're only learning about this now, 18 months later. And the second is, of course, he's not president. I mean, I think there was a genuine fear that if Trump were impeached and, attempted removed, that he would do something thoroughly nuts. This is a guy who has the nuclear codes.
Liz Cheney also raised the issue of witness tampering today. Why is that significant?
She said that one of the committee's witnesses had been contacted directly by Donald Trump. And that witness turned it over to the lawyer for that person, who then informed the committee. The committee then informed the Justice Department. So to the extent this was some sort of calculated attempt to influence testimony, that's a very simple federal crime. It's not a hard one to prove. So it'll just depend on the facts, and we don't know them yet, but this is looking like a potentially significant problem for Donald Trump.
Neil Katyal, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.